Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got Elijah Manley here, candidate for U.S. House of Representatives in Florida 20, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, West Palm Beach areas of Broward, Palm Beach counties, historically majority black seat, redrawn in 2026. Elijah Manley is a Democratic socialist, an educator, an organizer. He's formerly homeless. He's a gay black Jewish candidate. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that right? You got it right. The information is correct. Just making sure. Florida 20 is a safe blue district. It's around D+22, which is precisely the reason why Debbie Wasserman Schultz decided to carpetbag into this district and try to secure a comfortable seat. This actually frustrated a lot of the people. This actually frustrated a lot of the people that are involved in the process, specifically all the other black candidates that were involved in the process. And it even caused someone who is otherwise a fairly reliable ally to establishment Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, to not really officially endorse her at all, but also not like he didn't condemn her, I would say, but he also, at least when he first found out about it, he wasn't. It was interesting.
I was shocked by it.
Yeah,
he usually stands by like every Democrat, and so for him to not endorse Debbie, I mean, the writing's on the wall for her. I mean, she's in danger.
We got your launch vid here. Don't flip it yet. Okay. Okay, you can flip it now.
Sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can.
I was only 9 years old when I heard those words. They stirred something deep inside me. A belief that change was not only possible, but inevitable. As I grew older, I realized that hope alone could not shield us from reality. Families like mine were left behind. I wake up before dawn and use public beach showers to get ready for school. Chronic childhood homelessness became my reality. I am Elijah Manley, and I'm running for Congress because I am sick and tired of career politicians who make empty promises and fail to deliver for the people who need them most. I face homelessness, hunger, and the daily struggles to make ends meet as a substitute teacher. We cannot fight the corrupt billionaires and the corrupt Republican Party politicians like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance with corruption in the Democratic Party. We have to root it out in our party first. My election will give our community more of a voice. We've never needed that voice more than we do right now, with a federal government that is being weaponized to attack our community entirely. We need young people. My candidacy provides the young LGBTQ community a voice and a seat at the table. That's so important right now. Now look, I don't want to make empty promises to you. The truth is, there's a lot of gridlock in Washington. But what I can promise you is that when I get there, that I'm going to fight like hell for you. And I'm not going to stop fighting until we win. I'm Elijah Manley, and I'm running for Congress because I believe that our future can be brighter than our past.
I know that kid.
You don't like it?
I know that kid.
Oh, you say you know that kid. I was like, let's say that's a great ad. God damn. Okay. All right. Well, Elijah, thank you for coming on. Very excited to have you here. And we got a lot of questions. So I'm going to get right into it. You were born and raised in the heart of Fort Lauderdale's historic Sistrunk community, growing up in deep poverty with a single mother. You experienced chronic homelessness, food insecurity, and you went to school hungry. To help pay your bills and buy school supplies, you started a landscaping business at the age of 12. How did navigating these material struggles shape your political worldview? And why do you believe that having a representative with firsthand lived experience with poverty is better than Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Why is that a necessary qualification for Florida District 20, where 16% of the population lives below the poverty line?
Right. Well, I'll say when you look at Washington and you look at the decisions they're making right now regarding healthcare, cutting SNAP, Medicaid benefits for the poorest people in my district, you see a Capitol Hill that is void, empty of voices of working class people. You have lawyers and doctors, and nothing's wrong with having lawyers and doctors, but you don't have a lot of people who slept out on the street. I mean, Cori Bush, when she got to the Hill, she was one of the first members of Congress that actually was homeless. That's so important. And for me, like the 2008 financial crisis, that's how we lost everything. And as a kid at that time, I didn't fully understand it. I just knew we were losing everything. We were sleeping in my mom's car, couch surfing at the time. But as I grew older, I started to ask myself the question, why at school are some of the students in my class, things are great. They live on the other side of the tracks and things are pretty good for them. Their financial situation for their family is better. But for my family, no matter how hard my mom works, 3 jobs at the time, that still wasn't enough to keep the roof over our head. So as I started asking myself those questions, I started to realize, oh, this is a political system. And so at a young age, I kind of got awakened. I mean, Bernie Sanders was a big awakening for a lot of people, I think. And for me, that was the first time I felt a politician really actually like talk to my struggle in a way that really meant something other than platitudes or words. I got involved in organizing at a very early age, Black Lives Matter Alliance of Broward County, one of the first after Trayvon Martin passed away or got murdered, actually. I lost a family member to gun violence. A police officer shot and killed my aunt Linda Sue Davis. And so all of those traumatic things happening to you at a young age, you start to, think about it and think about how can I make the world a better place for people who grew up the same way my family did. And that's why I got in politics. And what we're seeing in Washington right now, we're seeing billionaires, really, they just buy up all the elections. They let people who do their bidding. And those people go in there and they make sure that they get tax breaks, that they cut the social programs that families like mine rely on and communities in District 20. And we're some of the poorest people in the state of Florida. And all of that fascism and authoritarianism that we're seeing in Washington, a lot of it is starting out in the state of Florida and being perfected before they take it national.
You also ran for president
Yeah.
at the age of 16 to make a point about the age restrictions, which is, I guess, the opposite of what other Florida politicians oftentimes do as far as violating age restrictions. Matt Gaetz, what was your intention for running for president at the age of 16? What was the goal behind the protest campaign?
Actually, so it was one of my history class projects, and everyone had to pick something, and I said I was going to run for president. Everybody said, you can't do that. And I said, I know I can't, but I will. I'll do it anyways. I have a point to make. I have a voice that I want to make. I want to get that voice out there and talk about my community, where I come from, what I've been through, and I don't feel like waiting to do it. I look back at that and, I'm glad I did something like that because it really helped me find my voice a lot quicker. A lot of times when you're a young candidate, it takes some time to find your voice, figure out who you are, how to really speak about what you really feel. But that encounter, it was a really national encounter. It got a lot of headlines. But I'm glad I was able to do it and almost won one of the primaries in the Green Party at that time.
That's awesome. Your opponent, Sheila Cherfilius McCormick, was indicted on charges of stealing $5 million in disaster relief funds. You've confronted her in person about her charges, to which she replied with "your mama." Her income jumped from $86,000 to $6.4 million, and prosecutors say she laundered it into the campaign she won by 5 votes. Watchdog groups exposed her for orchestrating a $725,000 straw donor scheme, not dissimilar to Dinesh D'Souza, who went to prison for it under Barack Obama, and that funneled dark money from the government of Haiti to front organizations like Progressive People, Inc. After the indictment on April 21st, 2026, she resigned from Congress just minutes before a hearing on whether or not she should be expelled. What kind of politics are you looking to bring to Florida in order to repair trust with the voters who've seen nothing but outright corruption over the last few years, if not the last couple of decades?
I think authenticity and a politician who isn't corrupt for once. I mean, every story that you read is always about a politician in Florida. Florida man did this, Florida politician did that, stole money, some type of scheme. And this district has been through a lot already. I mean, with Sheila, just corruption, back and forth corruption. I think we need a fresh start, a reset. No more career politicians, no more people who have all of these ethical scandals or fraud or indictments. We really need a fresh start. And that also starts by leading by example. And in my campaign, I think 25,000 or so people have contributed to the campaign. No super PAC money, no PAC, no special interest. The average donation was about $19 a person. And that's the way to do it. And everyone can say, I'm not corrupt, but it's really, you really look at how they're funded, who's backing them, and you see the whole picture. And so I want to bring Florida finally an elected official who actually is fighting for them for once and not for a corporation or some super PAC.
There was also a $1 million defamation lawsuit against you that was dismissed in January 2026. So what happened there?
Yeah, so Sheila McCormick, for background for people who may not know, she has a healthcare company her family owns and that she was the CEO of, and she got overpayment from the state.
A lot
of
of politicians in Florida with healthcare companies that
Rick
have
Scott.
done unbelievable amounts of corruption. Sometimes one might even say record award-winning levels, like Olympic levels of healthcare fraud.
Yeah. The largest Medicaid fraud in American history was conducted by Rick Scott, who is now our senator.
Oh, well, you don't
Yeah.
say. I'm not very familiar. I'm not very familiar with that man.
We got to confront him in Washington, myself and Oliver Larkin, I think a week and a half or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
On the Hill, and he just kind of blew past us.
He gets scared easy.
He's very scary.
Yeah, he's scary, but he also gets scared easy. All right, so your opponent took over $340,000 from pro-Israel PACs.
Yep.
After her November 19th indictment, she reported only 4 contributions to her campaign, 2 of which came from AIPAC. She's also taken AIPAC-sponsored trips to Israel with wanted war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu in May 2025.
And took a picture with him.
Yeah. So what's your stance on taking corporate PAC money, and what does this say about a candidate who takes money from groups advocating on behalf of a state committing genocide, and a candidate that wants to take photos with a international war criminal?
Yeah, bad politics. I say it shows that she doesn't give a damn about our community. And I think politicians who are taking money from AIPAC right now as they starve and murder and pillage Gaza, do illegal settlements in the West Bank, they lack humanity, in my opinion. And so Sheila McCormick getting 4 contributions, 2 of which were AIPAC, and 2 I think were corporations. I think one of them was a corporation, one was a individual, Matt's Out, which was probably also an AIPAC donor. Shows that she doesn't have any real grassroots support. And a lot of these politicians, they don't have any grassroots support. They only rely on support from corporate PACs and from super PACs and from wealthy donors. For me, I think the future of politics in the Democratic Party has to be banning super PACs, banning corporate money in our primaries especially, and then nationwide banning it in all elections, because we cannot continue to have a political system where a few people buy out all the politicians, a couple super PACs come in, drown out the voices of the community. That's just not the right way to do it.
Following the mid-decade redistricting push led by Governor Ron DeSantis, which some Democrats have taken to calling a dummy mander because it made a lot more competitive districts in the state of Florida, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's coastal 25th district was redrawn. Rather than fighting in her own home district, she decided to run to District 20th. You have publicly slammed her for carpetbagging into a historically black district to save her political career. How do you respond to her claims that her 20 years in Washington seniority will deliver more federal resources to Broward County?
It's baloney. She hasn't done it. She's been in Congress for 22 years, in office for 34 years. And what does she have to show for it? Under her leadership as chair of the DNC, we lost 1,000 seats. We lost the House and we didn't get it back until she left the DNC. We lost the Senate. We lost 900 state legislative seats. Everywhere Debbie Wasserman Schultz goes, a disaster follows. Her time in Congress has been really surrounded by helping corporations, helping the healthcare industry, not really doing anything for Broward. And this is a district that needs help. It's a majority black district that is always ignored, and it needs somebody that really cares about this district. We have over half of the people in our district are rent burdened. They spend over half of their income on rent. We have over 150,000 people that are on Medicaid in our district, 80,000 on SNAP. Debbie Wasserman Schultz never cared about this district before she decided to run. And now she somehow discovered these issues and care and says she's a progressive. Can't believe it.
This ties back to your political awakening with Bernie Sanders, but in July 2016, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign as the chair of the DNC after WikiLeaks published thousands of leaked internal emails. And these emails exposed DNC staffers actively plotting to undermine the insurgent progressive presidential campaign of Bernie Sanders, including questioning his religious beliefs to hurt him with Southern voters. As a progressive candidate running against the very personification of the corporate party establishment, how does this history of backroom coordination influence your approach of organizing outside of, the traditional gate-kept party structures and fighting against entrenched power?
Yeah, I think being independent of the party is the way to go, because you can't trust someone like Debbie Wasserman Schultz not to put her finger on the scale. And she has already started that. For the life of me, she should have been out of office after 2016. This is not someone who should have remained in Congress after literally giving us Donald Trump by rigging the 2016 primaries. And everyone agrees. So for me, I think having a more people-focused, people-first campaign is the way to go. We spend a lot of time at the doors talking to voters, not going through the party structure. Because one, the party structure is garbage in Florida, as you probably know already. Yeah. And two, you listen to the party, they'll tell you what to do, and they'll tell you to kind of just ignore your constituents, and that's not the right way to do it. So for me, operating outside of the Democratic Party structure, I am a Democratic candidate, but I like talking to the voters directly because the voters want to hear what you want to do. They want to hear from you what your ideals are. They don't want to hear what the Democratic Party has to say. December
2015, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was one of the 13 Florida representatives who co-sponsored a bill designed to impose a 2-year moratorium on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's efforts to regulate predatory payday loan networks. This co-sponsorship came after she accepted $68,000 in campaign contributions from payday lenders, leading progressive groups to label her the debt trap Debbie. With millions of working class Floridians trapped in cycles of debt due to predatory interest rates, how do you plan to use her record of protecting financial exploiters, attacking the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to draw contrast with your platform of economic justice and consumer protections?
We will let every voter in this district know Debbie's record on predatory lending, which is something the NAACP has called modern day redlining. If you go into Broward County in our district, there is an AMSCOT or a payday lender on almost every single corner in the county. She has taken over $20,000, over $68,000 from predatory lenders. She sponsored that legislation opposing both Barack Obama and Elizabeth Warren in the CFPB's efforts to regulate predatory lending. And as a result, we're talking about entities that have 300, 400% interest rates on communities of color. And so letting voters know this record, letting them know who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is, how she is predatory, how she has allowed predatory lenders to take advantage of the Black community, letting them know not to vote for this person because she's coming into a majority Black district and saying, I have fought for the Black community my entire life. Mm-hmm. I was DNC chair. I'm in leadership, even though Obama didn't like her.
Yeah.
We need to let people know this because that is going to be one of the single biggest issues that hurts her with the Black community because everybody has an AMSCOT story or a Western Union story.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz has also taken nearly $1.5 million from pro-Israel lobby groups over her career. She voted for the $14.3 billion Israel military package in November 2023. She was one of the only 22 Democrats who crossed over with the Republicans to censure Rashida Tlaib. When the ICJ ruled Israel's occupation illegal, she said the court discriminates against Israel. And then she voted to sanction the ICC for issuing arrest warrants for Netanyahu. It's basically a Republican policy platform, pretty much, when it comes to her opinion on America's relationship with Israel. You're a Jewish candidate, and you're calling it a genocide, and you're demanding an arms embargo. What do you say to voters in this district who are sick and tired of our tax dollars being sent to Israel instead of being used here?
I say vote Debbie Wasserman Schultz out of office because if she is allowed to remain in office, she's going to continue to send our money to kill people over in Gaza. That is who she is. She's bought and owned by AIPAC, $1.5 million. They're getting the bang for their buck for the money they've given her. And this is somebody, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, somebody who is pretending to care about our community and the needs that we have. We need jobs. We need healthcare. But as long as we send billions of dollars over to Israel, we're never going to get it. And so I'm telling people to stand up in this moment, in this election, and remove her from office. This is probably one of the last opportunities people will get to get her out of Congress. And so this moment is so important.
Do you believe the U.S. should provide Israel with defensive weaponry?
No.
Okay. So going back,
I think we should arms embargo all the way.
Okay.
And I would support block the bombs that Ilya Ramirez put in.
There's also, I have a Debbie Wasserman Schultz endorsement list right here. It's AIPAC, the Democratic Majority for Israel, Giffords, Jewish Democratic Council of America, Joint Action Committee for Political Affairs, Planned Parenthood Action Fund, and the Population Connection. That's her endorsement list. going back to your endorsements, or not your endorsement necessarily, but I want to talk about your foreign policy platform a little bit, because this is definitely a community that is a little bit outside of the box when it comes to American intervention, NATO Atlanticism, and whatnot. And your platform calls for continuing military aid to Ukraine, not Israel, sorry. Strong support for NATO, backing Taiwan against China, and continuing conditioned aid to Israel. You're now saying that you want an arms embargo. So I want to know what the distinction there is as far as like sending aid to Israel. You want to fully restore U.S. aid. You want to sanction Iran. How does that work with the no weapons for genocide policy? With the rest of this platform that looks like fairly traditional liberal interventionism that we see from a lot of average Democrats.
Yeah, I would say no weapons for Israel at all. That's what my platform is. I am pretty supportive of the Ukrainian people as they fight back against what I call Russian imperialism. I don't want to see American boots on the ground anywhere. And so I will not support American boots on the ground, but I do support the Ukrainian people and their resistance, and the Taiwanese people without going to war.
As far as that goes with Taiwan, what's your attitude towards the current American posture? Do you want a more cooperative relationship with China, or do you want to continue sending weapons to Taiwan, which even the Trump administration is now reneged on after the Xi Jinping summit, where $14 billion worth of weapons that were supposed to go to Taiwan were canceled?
Right. Yeah, I think more cooperative is the way to go. I don't want war. No one wins a war between the U.S. and China. So I would not want us to be trying or posturing for war. I think that's a bad idea.
You also say you support free and fair trade, but you've also mentioned that Chinese competition has threatened both U.S. national security and global stability. You've also posted about strengthening our relationship with China, though, and you've praised China for ending extreme poverty. How do you view America's relationship with China, and how do you plan on balancing protecting both American consumers and American workers in cooperating with China going forward?
Right. So I would say no TPP, none of those types of trade deals. I definitely think we need to protect the American worker. First and foremost, I'm going to put the American worker first. I think there's something to be done having free trade between us and China. So I don't want to see like some type of permanent trade war or trade war at all, because that ends up hurting the American consumer. But, I'm not a capitalist, but we are competing. As long as we are competing, I want to put the American worker first.
You also, in January 2025, stated that Donald Trump was turning Colombia over to China. What role do you believe the U.S. should play in Latin America? Should it involve military intervention? Should it be simple economic diplomacy? Where do you see your position on that?
Diplomacy, always diplomacy. No kidnapping leaders in foreign countries, or no kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries. Kidnapping Maduro, I think, was kind of dumb. So I think we have done enough, and it's time for us to be the diplomats in the room, build up other countries, provide them with the aid and support that they need to rebuild their countries. I know Venezuela just had a really bad earthquake, and we should be rushing over there to help.
You also wrote an op-ed in the Sun Sentinel in January 2026, where you called on the UN to set up a reconstruction trust fund to help rebuild Venezuela. In your opinion, what role should the U.S. play in the future of Venezuela? And do you find Trump's actions in Venezuela justifiable to bomb the country, kidnap its president, hold him in solitary confinement without trial so far?
No, he's doing the wrong thing by going to war and putting us in a very bad situation and making America look bad and like out of control on the world stage. And the reason why I say a reconstruction trust fund is because we know people like to steal the money, and I know the Trump administration is just going to steal whatever relief money. And so this needs to be independent. The U.S. should allow some international body. It doesn't have to be the UN, but some place that is trustworthy to hold those funds and make sure the people of Venezuela get the relief that they need, not just here with this earthquake, but in general, their country facing some tough economic times and a crisis. And that money should be going to rebuilding them, not going to billionaires in Venezuela, not going to American billionaires, and not for Donald Trump to give to his friends. Because we're known to pillage and steal, and that's what I want to avoid.
Yeah, and Donald Trump has been pretty open about doing that and saying that
now he's doing it out in the open. He's not even hiding it anymore.
So, last question on foreign policy before we move on to some other stuff. So, how would you like to see the Ukraine war resolved? Because the NATO summit just took place today. Ukraine has gained some fairly significant leverage over Russia, even though there was a recent article that just came out on the Telegraph that talked about how in a war of attrition, in the absence of additional NATO support, Russia, regardless of Ukraine's newfound leverage striking oil refineries and critical infrastructure, Russia will win the war of attrition. So what is your assessment on that, and how do you think the Ukraine war could get resolved?
So I don't know what the future is going to hold. I'll be honest with you. I am happy to see that Ukraine is having some success here. That's the goal. I think eventually they're going to have to come to the table, but I think that they need to get all their land back. And Russia has taken Ukrainians' land and continue to do so. I don't know what is going on with the whole talk about Poland right now. I haven't read too much into it. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. That's not a good situation for anybody. But I would like to see the Ukrainian people have all of their land and sovereignty returned to them, back to their borders before this war started. And I would love them to have some type of security guarantee to make sure that Russia doesn't invade them again. What that looks like and how they get there and the specifics, that's still to be determined. I think the Ukrainians are going to have to figure that out, and we should support them in whatever decision they come to.
Florida's 20th Congressional District contains one of the largest Haitian diaspora communities in the United States. You've been a vocal defender of this community, and you've strongly opposed efforts by the Trump administration to terminate the temporary protected status for approximately 500,000 Haitian nationals. With federal immigration policy becoming increasingly militarized and hostile to Caribbean refugees, what's your long-term vision for protecting TPS status holders? And how will you work to reform our broken asylum system to ensure humane treatment for those fleeing political instability?
Right. The first thing I'll say is I am extremely scared about what's about to happen in Broward County. We have one of the highest populations of Haitian Americans in the country on TPS, probably the outside of New York City. And they're about to be terrorized. With this recent Supreme Court decision, ICE is going to come in here and start kidnapping people off the streets, and nobody's safe. They're kidnapping American citizens off the streets, just going around and picking anybody up. And it's going to get really bad here, especially around the general election time. They're going to come and maybe surveil the polling sites. So currently there's gangs running the government in Haiti. We all know they're butchering people there. Yeah. A lot of people are coming here because of that. To send people back to that situation to be butchered is just evil and cruel. Yeah. We already know Donald Trump is and the Republicans are evil and cruel to try to be sending people back. But this is just next level. So we definitely need to reinstate TPS, and I think we need to also do something on a federal level, pass some legislation as well. There's legislation I know that Congresswoman Ayanna Presley introduced to make sure that we protect the Haitian community. But then also Haiti needs to be stabilized without intervention, without us going in and sending American troops on the ground to fight a war. I don't think we need to do that. I think that's the wrong way to do it. Plus, the Haitian people don't want Washington coming in, putting their boot on their neck. But we have to find a way to make sure that the gangs are not butchering people and not sending people back to that situation. But also these people they work in our hospitals, our schools, they work important jobs, they contribute to our economy. These are people who should have a pathway to citizenship in this country. And that's what I want to work on, is making sure that they get permanent resident status and citizenship eventually.
Speaking of ICE, you brought it up earlier. Do you support the abolition and the prosecution of ICE?
Yes, abolition and prosecution. Okay. I think it's important.
What about Debbie Wasserman Schultz? What's her assessment on ICE?
She supported building in 2011 an ICE detention facility in Broward County in the Southwest Ranches. She signed a letter saying this is good for the economy and recommending to the ICE director to build that facility. 1,100 bed facility in Broward County in Southwest Ranches. So now she's posturing, and because she's running in a majority black district with a lot of immigrants, she's posturing herself as pro-immigrant and anti-ICE, but she's not going to say the word abolish or prosecute ICE. She's just going to say, oh, we need to rein them in and we need to reform ICE. I think we need to get rid of this agency. And when I get to Congress, the first thing I'm doing is putting in a rescissions package to rescind all of the additional funding that ICE got and cut out all of their funding for fiscal years to come. Because what they are doing, the way they're terrorizing our community, violating the Constitution, they're being used as Donald Trump's personal army to go around, or his personal secret police to kidnap people that don't agree with him.
And maybe even engage in electioneering as well,
Oh, yeah.
as the way things are going. In July 2025, the DeSantis administration, with direct backing from Donald Trump, opened alligator Alcatraz inside the Big Cypress National Preserve. It was recently shut down in June 2026 following runaway costs, intense litigation over the alleged Clean Air Act violations from continuously running diesel generators, and reports of horrific conditions such as raw sewage, flooding, and worms in the food. It was also exposed as the single most expensive immigration detention camp in the United States history, burning through taxpayer money at a rate of $3,571 per day per detainee, with a total budget that topped $1.2 billion. As someone who's fought against the militarization of our borders, what does the disaster of alligator Alcatraz show us about the intersecting failures of immigration enforcement, environmental degradation of the Everglades, and the sheer corruption of using emergency funds to run modern day concentration camps?
I don't even know where to start. First, I'll say I think Ron DeSantis needs to go to jail for this. This is cruel. It's a violation of human rights. And we would never let another country do something without crowing about it ourselves. And this concentration camp in Florida, in the Everglades, and the Everglades is a beautiful place. It was part of my district up until they redrew the maps in April. It's a massive environmentally protected a piece of land in our community. It helps the water flow south in the community in the state of Florida. A beautiful place. A lot of wildlife lives there, habitats, and building this monstrosity in the middle of the Everglades and allowing it to be used for such horrible purposes should be illegal. And it was really illegal. And Florida has never been reimbursed for it. And so he really just spent money that we didn't have to do this and didn't even get anything from the federal government for it. So I say it really shows that we have a broken immigration system, that we have ICE running around kidnapping people, sending them to these types of facilities. And there was a world without ICE before. I mean, before 2003, we didn't have ICE.
Yeah.
We didn't have a police type immigration or militarized immigration system. And we should return to that.
It's a paperwork violation at the end of the day. The way that we're treating these people for not having the proper paperwork that we refuse to give them is unbelievably cruel and unjust. You and Larkin confronted Rick Scott, as you said earlier. Over 70% of your district's residents being uninsured. 150,000 are on Medicaid. What's your vision to bring accessible, high-quality health care to Florida's 20th district?
Medicare for all. We need to pass Medicare for all, and that is one of the main demands that I'll have for leadership before they get my vote when I'm elected to Congress is we need to have a vote on Medicare for all, and we need to push it because there is no reason in the world why in a country as rich as ours, with people struggling right now in an affordability crisis, for us not to have universal health care, to have a Medicare for all, a single-payer system. And so that's what I'm going to fight for, because I mean, one of the top issues I'm hearing from people when I'm knocking doors is, wow, my premium just skyrocketed. But even before the premiums, the ACA subsidies expired, people were still struggling to pay for their health care. They had these high deductibles and high co-payments. And we really need to give people some relief here. And so I also support canceling medical debt as well, removing it off credit reports, canceling the debt altogether, because if we were able to bail out Wall Street, and we always find a way to bail out the companies, we can bail out regular people. So cancel the medical debt, and we need to put some cost controls.
Don't you feel like $1 billion would be better spent on a concentration camp aptly named Alligator Alcatraz, though, instead of taking away people's medical debt?
Only if we put Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis in it and don't let them leave ever. Then
okay, fine. I like that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and then capping the cost of certain prescription drugs, like life-saving medicines, like blood thinners, diabetes medicine. I'm pre-diabetic, so I may need insulin soon. Those types of medicines should not have a cost on it, period, but they should have some type of control. And so allowing Medicare and Medicaid to negotiate, because they currently don't have that capacity right now, will be very important. But once we have a Medicare for all system, these drugs should be free for everybody. And we should also allow importation of cheaper prescription drugs from other countries as well. I know that's something that, surprisingly enough, Ron DeSantis was pushing in Florida, and it didn't get support federally. Wonder why. But we should allow those drugs to come from Canada, from other countries across the world, import these cheaper drugs. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these drugs are no different than the name brands you can find in other countries. But the brand, the patent is what is allowing these companies to charge $50,000 for these drugs. And I think some of these executives in the pharma companies should be sent to jail and prosecuted for violating American law, because there are already a lot of books on
or even
on the books.
Maybe, people who have been found in violation of doing Medicaid or Medicare fraud.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe they should be in jail and not congressional.
Yeah. In the U.S. Senate,
not in Congress, and certainly not in the Senate. I don't know who I could be referring to anyone right now. In July 2025, the Broward County School Board effectively voted to end universal free school lunches, reverting to a pre-pandemic policy requiring parents to apply for free or reduced fee meals after the federal pandemic funding expired. You testified before the board stating that we really shouldn't means test hunger. How does this return to means testing school meals expose the broader bipartisan embrace of austerity? And how would you fight at the federal level to establish universal permanent free breakfast and lunch programs for all public school students?
Right. First thing I'll say is we had that in Broward County because of me. In 2018, when I ran for school board, I was crowing about this all day, all long. And after I lost that race, I sat down with a couple school board members and I said, hey, like we have to make sure kids are able to eat. And so that was something I was able to accomplish, where any student in Broward County could go to school and both get breakfast and lunch, and then after school as well. Whether or not they were in an after school program, they can bring their family members and get food. That was a very good thing, very positive thing. And because of these policies from both the state and the federal government, and Donald Trump cutting the Department of Education budget, food and nutrition budget for families, they had to cut those programs. In my opinion, I don't think Broward County should have cut it. They should have found a way to continue paying for it. They found a way to make sure the superintendent gets paid well. They found a way to make sure all of the administrators and all their other programs and the school police got all of the money they needed. I think they should have cut some of those positions in a top-heavy school district and used that money to feed kids. Because in this country, I hate that we means test everything, and people say this about college, tuition-free public college as well. They say, well, I don't want to pay for college for, children of millionaires. And to me, I think, these things are human rights. And I mean, it should be human rights for everybody, regardless of your income and who you grew up with.
I don't say that about roads. Well, I guess you're in Florida, so there's a lot of toll roads in your state. So
a lot of toll roads.
Yeah.
Turnpike. They found a way now to take I-95 in Florida and turn some of the lanes into, for-profit toll roads.
Insane. Florida is a anarcho-capitalist nightmare. I lived there. The first place I lived in the United States of America was Coral Gables when I went to the University of Miami. And Florida is a little bit of a nightmare in many respects. You survived Coral Gables? I did. I did survive it.
It's a tough place.
Barely for you. You oppose the central bank digital currency on privacy grounds.
Yeah.
Yet you back the Genius Act, which was signed into law by Trump in 2025 of July 2025, to establish a framework for stable crypto stable coins. Your campaign also accepts crypto donations. How do you reckon with these two stances, which might appear to delegate state control of the digital dollar to private companies that issue stable coins?
Yeah, well, I think we need regulation, and we need some type of framework right away to regulate crypto so that Donald Trump doesn't get to enrich himself off of crypto like he's doing with, I don't know what it's called now, Trump coin. And that's why I support these pieces of legislation like the Clarity Act, because we can't wait until we get a Democratic president in office or till we take back Congress. We need to pass this now so there could be some like baseline regulation on the crypto industry. But on the central bank digital currency, I'm a big civil libertarian, and I just don't trust the big banks, and I don't really trust the government. And I know a lot of immigrants in our community kind of send money back to their families using crypto. And so, I want to make sure they have the privacy.
That's your most Florida quality. You're not even agnostic, but your supportive feelings towards cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
that's the most. I would say that's the most Florida thing about your campaign.
And I like hot weather. I'm not a fan of the cold. So
yeah, well, me too. In coastal Fort Lauderdale, homeowners are paying around $8,300 a year for property insurance, nearly 4 times the national average, while DeSantis hands the industry tort reform and calls single-digit rate cuts a victory. How do you run on affordability in a state where simply existing is this expensive. What can Congress actually do about the insurance crisis?
Yeah, well, there is a ballot measure on the ballot in Florida right now to abolish property taxes, so to speak, and that will actually make the situation much worse. But we also need regulation on the insurance companies. We need to also do some reform of National Flood Insurance Program. There's a lot of things that we could do specifically on insurance. We need more options than Citizens, which is the insurance in Florida. So we need better options for people, and the government can create some. I know in Florida, the government doesn't want to create anything government ran, but I do think the government can create an insurance program for people, for homeowners, so that there's some competition, because these private companies are coming in, and they're just, picking who they want to cover, and walling off entire zip codes of people we're not going to cover, and they're all pulling out of Florida because, to face it, Florida is facing a crisis with climate change and sea level rise, and the insurance companies know that that's going to come home to roost soon. And I lost my home in 2023 with the flood that came through Fort Lauderdale, and you probably saw some of the footage of it. I mean, cars floating and turned the whole city of Fort Lauderdale into a river. So we have to do something on insurance, but on affordability when it comes to housing, we need to build more housing, meaning we need to remove some of the red tape on some of the bureaucracy to allow there to be more housing built in our community. We need more public housing as well. Since Reagan, we really haven't invested in public housing, and that's a problem and an issue to me. But also, one of the things that is central to my platform on housing is stopping people from being evicted. So ending no-cause evictions, but also the number one way to stop or no-fault evictions. The number one way to stop people from losing their homes is by making sure they have legal representation. And there are so many people. I mean, I've been through an eviction process before. It's confusing, judicial process. You're not entitled to an attorney, and you have a right to an attorney under the law, under the Constitution of the United States and a Supreme Court ruling. That should extend to civil cases too. When you're going through that process, you have like 3 days before they throw all your shit on the side of the street. Yeah. And you don't know how to respond to that. Like I didn't know you had to email the judge directly, when you're going through a process. I thought, you submit it with the clerk of courts. I mean, that seems like little small things, but it's so big. I mean, when you lose your home, your health starts to deteriorate, everything else in your life starts to fall apart, and we can prevent this. Having rental assistance programs, having rent control, any no-fault evictions, but also making sure people have access to an attorney.
What are your top 5 priorities for Florida's 20th district, and how would you go about implementing them?
Yeah, so the first priority is making sure we have a corruption-free representative, and when I get there, remaining true to that, which means I will not be trading stocks, magically getting rich, and none of that stuff. By the way, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is one of the top, I think, number 2 stock trader in the entire country and in Congress.
You just hate to see a girl boss thrive. It's fine. It's okay.
So corruption, making sure we don't have corruption, both for me and none of the elected officials under me. I will not tolerate it. I will endorse against people. I will find other people to run. I want to clean up South Florida because there's too much corruption there. 2, tackle the housing crisis in Broward County. As you mentioned, people can't afford to live in Broward County anymore. They're being pushed out. Things are being gentrified. Housing costs are going up. We need to tackle the housing crisis for the reasons I mentioned before. Healthcare. We have a healthcare crisis as well. I will, and I'm not going to be afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to shut the government down to protect our rights, our healthcare, and our benefits from the Republicans. I don't understand why the Republicans are able to get into office, do whatever they want to do when they have the majority, but somehow when we get it, we can't figure out how to do anything. There's the filibuster. We don't have the votes. We have the votes. We just need to, ram our stuff through like they do. So those are the 3 big top issues. Climate change is another priority. Hardening our infrastructure, making sure we have the resources to harden our infrastructure against floods, and really make sure that we tackle the crisis of climate change, which is hitting South Florida the hardest. We're ground zero. The infrastructure needs to be fit, so we need to invest more money in making sure we have environmental justice, making sure people's utility rates go down as well because people are struggling to pay for their utilities. And then the final, and this is important, is protecting our democracy. It's at risk in Florida more than it is anywhere, with the creative ways the Republicans find ways to make sure that we're not able to vote. With redistricting, they tried it. The new law that tells you have to re-register to vote by mail like every year now, purging people from the rolls. We need to protect our democracy from both dark money, but also from fascist who are in office trying to take away our right to vote.
Florida's especially notorious with this. Ron DeSantis barely won against the candidate who, well, we found out after the fact was very, he was caught up in a lot of stuff. But at the time, he defeated Gillum barely with a very, very slim margin the first time he ran against him. And then, lo and behold, one of the first things he did was basically reinstitute a poll tax for a lot of felons who won their right to vote by a much wider margin than Ron DeSantis' margin of victory through the democratic process. And that is a real issue in your state. So, what do you think about that? How do you feel about working on felons' rights to vote? Like restoring felons' rights to vote in the state of Florida.
Yeah. It's in our Constitution, and they don't want to follow the law, which when you get to a situation where the elected officials don't want to follow the law anymore, then we're in a really bad situation. So I think federally, we need to start preempting some of the state laws, tie up federal funding in instances where they are violating the law. But protecting our voting rights, we're going to continue to have amendments on the ballot in Florida to protect our right to vote. To expand our voting rights, we need election day to be a national holiday. That's something I want to work on. Same day voter registration in Florida. By the way, if you're not registered to vote by July 20th, you will not be allowed to vote in the primaries in August. That needs to change as well. But that is, I'm telling you, if you're in Florida, go get registered to vote now. Update it as soon as you can.
Let's talk about Democratic Socialists of America. They've had a big year. You, from what I understand, used to be a part of the Broward chapter. And then the chapter got disbanded? Right?
Yeah, it was like 2018, 20. I mean, there was a DSA. It was like 5 people, including me. And then like it kind of fell apart. And randomly one day I was like, oh, there's a DSA. And it was a lot of people in there. So
yeah. So you were OG in some respects. Are you currently a dues paying member of the Democratic
I'm currently
Socialist?
not a dues paying member of DSA.
Okay. But you are running as a Democratic Socialist. Have you been endorsed by the Democratic Socialists in Florida?
Have not.
Have you sought out their endorsement?
Right now there's a conversation kind of going on where I'm talking with someone about rejoining DSA and seeking the endorsement of DSA.
Because you've been running around with Oliver Larkin, who is not only endorsed but also nationally endorsed. One of the few congressional representatives running right now that's been nationally endorsed by DSA National. Okay, I wanted to hear that. You also ran as a Green Party presidential candidacy. So I didn't know if you were, I didn't know if that's where your allegiances lie. If you're a Green Party guy or not.
I'm a Democrat.
Yeah. Rapid fire. Do you support Medicare for all?
Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Abolishing and prosecuting ICE?
Yes.
Abolishing private prisons?
Yes.
A Green New Deal?
Yes.
National rent control?
Yes.
Restoring temporary protected status for Haitians?
Yes.
Banning congressional stock trading?
Yes.
Ending the embargo on Cuba?
Yes.
Ending aid to Israel?
Yes.
Sanctioning Israel?
Yes.
A free Palestine?
Yes.
So your primary is on August 18th. For people hearing you for the first time today, what do you want them to understand about your convictions, and how can people contribute to your campaign both in Florida, in your district, and also outside your district?
So I would say I want people to understand that my worldview and who I am is defined by the things that I've been through in life. In Washington, I think my constituents and this country would benefit from having the voices of people who actually been through shit for once. I didn't get into politics because I wanted really to be in politics. There's a lot of other things I wanted to do in life. I really did this because I remember being that kid waking up in my mom's car and showering at the beach. And I said, I don't want that to be the reality for anybody else right here in Broward County or anywhere else in the country for that matter. And so this has been a little bit of a sacrifice, but it's the right thing to do because we deserve better in this country. And we deserve better than what we're getting from the Democratic Party. And so if you agree and, it's finally an opportunity to remove someone who's been a top corporate Democrat in this party and who is the reason why we're in this era that we're in with Donald Trump, you can contribute. Go to ElijahManley.com to contribute and donate. Also sign up for phone banking shifts and knocking on doors. We need more people because this is going to be an expensive race. AIPAC is going to be spending, of course, to defend their queen, and I'm going to need all the help that I can get.
The voter registration deadline in person is July 20th, 2026. By mail, postmark by July 20th, 2026. Online by July 20th, 2026. Absentee mail-in voting is available to all voters. And the absentee mail-in ballot request deadline in person is by August 6th, 2026. By mail, received by August 6th. and online by August 6th. The absentee mail-in ballot return deadline in person is by August 18th, 2026, and by mail, it must be received by August 18th, 2026. Early voting is available to all voters, and early voting starts and ends from August 8th to August 15th, 2026. Polls are open on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Elijah Manley, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
This
Thanks for
was
having me
great.
out here.